I know, just what the internet needed, another 20-something-year-old getting on camera and talking about Star Wars. But his video, it was just inevitable, because I'm a fan. So about a week and a half ago at Star Wars Celebration, we got the first official trailer for Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And yeah, a week and a half ago, because I'm still catching up on videos from when I was gone, so like I use this excuse for all the time, I'm fashionably late. But the trailer starts out and something's happening, something's coming into focus, you realize it's some rocks, and then all of a sudden a hand reaches down and the camera pans up and it's Rey and she's on the ground and she's panting. Very similar actually to how The Force Awakens first trailer started. You guys remember that when it was on Jakku? And Finn just pops up and he's breathing all heavily. And something about that sudden camera jerk when it showed Rey, I really liked that. You can tell just from this trailer that Rian Johnson's directing style, it's something we really haven't seen in Star Wars before. It's kind of similar to J.J. Abrams where the camera's always moving, but I feel like it's even more sudden, a little more extreme. But anyways, Rey's on the ground, she's in the middle of training with Luke, and then you hear a voiceover from Luke Skywalker and he's saying, "Breathe slowly, what do you see?" And Rey's telling him, you know, light, darkness, the Force. And this trailer, it's classic trailer fashion. It's a voiceover. It's got a lot of just random shots of the movie. You see a little shot of Finn in that healing tank because he somehow survived through The Force Awakens. I really like Finn, but he took a fat hit at the end of that movie. Not hit, like Poe's running around with BB-8, his ship gets blown up yet again. You see a shot of the back of Princess Leia. I feel like this movie's gonna be kind of hard to watch because of that. Not because of anything they're doing with the character of Leia, because, you know, Carrie Fisher finished all her scenes. It's just, you know, it's her last movie. That's a bummer. You also see Kylo Ren pointing his little junky lightsaber out. He's to the scar on his face. It reminds me of Anakin's scar from Revenge of the Sith. And Rian Johnson actually did say, like, we moved the scar because it looked weird having the scar right across his face like it was at the end of Force Awakens. For Force Awakens, it was fine because it was one scene, it was in the dark, who cares? But in The Last Jedi, I get where he's coming from, where it does look weird if he has a big slash across his face, but that gash was a lot bigger than the little thin line he has running down his face. I don't know, I was kind of expecting something a little more Two-Face-esque. Not completely like one half is fine, the other half is completely burned, but I was expecting one side of his face to be a little more mutilated, kind of like Harry in Spider-Man 3. I think that's a better comparison. But anyways, then the final line in this trailer that everybody's talking about, Luke Skywalker goes, "It's time for the Jedi." And this trailer's just building and building, and the entire time you're like, what is it? What is it? What's the time for the Jedi to do, Luke? To end. And then boom, the Star Wars title comes up. I do get where Luke is coming from. You see this at the end of The Force Awakens. When Luke turns around, he looks damaged. This guy's obviously been through a lot in the last 30 years since we saw him in Return of the Jedi. And Luke Skywalker, he really started out as a victim to the events of the prequels. Love or hate the prequels, I personally am not a huge fan of them, but the point of the prequels, at least the two main points of the prequels, was to show Anakin turning into Darth Vader, and it was also to show the failure of the Jedi, the fact that the Jedi let the Empire take over. And both Obi-Wan and Yoda basically tell Luke, you know, the Jedi, they're not what they used to be, but they were both kind of like, yeah, you can bring balance to the Force and you can right our wrongs, you can fix the mistakes that we made. And he does that, and then he's like, hey, let's bring back the Jedi. And then that plan goes to crap because Kylo Ren turns against him and kills all the other Jedi. And so Luke is like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it's time for the Jedi to end. I've always been really interested in seeing Rey's training. I've been looking forward to that since The Force Awakens came out. But Daisy Ridley was saying in the Last Jedi panel, she's like, sometimes you see your heroes in real life and they're not always how you think that they would be. Obviously that's going to come into play with Luke. This guy carries a lot of baggage. But it's going to be an interesting swap between Yoda and Luke and Rey. Because like I was saying, Yoda did have he's too old to begin training. But for the most part, Yoda was like, alright, you can't get seduced by the dark side. You have to confront Vader. You can't make the mistakes that we made. And he was very positive. And Luke, while he was positive, he did whine a lot and he did have a pretty big pull towards the dark side. Now with Rey, it looks like Rey's gonna be the more positive one, like, yeah, Luke's gonna teach me, it's gonna be awesome. And then she meets Luke and Luke is like, no, things have changed. There is no hope for the Jedi. The Jedi in the last 60 years have only brought destruction to the galaxy. It's time for them to end. So it's kind of a switching of roles there, and I really like that. Overall, the Last Jedi trailer, it's really just what you would expect, but that's not a bad thing. It does leave you with questions for the movie. It does give you some pretty sweet visuals. Those rebel ships going over the sulfur, sand planet, whatever that was. Letting out that like red smoke behind them going towards the AT-AT walkers. Don't know what that was, but it looked cool. Second chapter in the trilogy is always the darkest. I'm sure this one will share some resemblances to Empire Strikes Back. However, like I've said before, I don't want this movie to be Empire Strikes Back. Force Awakens, love it or hate it, it did borrow a lot of beats from the original Star Wars. This one, you know, it can borrow beats from Empire, but I just want it to be, it's really its own thing. Go in a completely new direction with this one. So I'm excited for the movie. I know basically the whole world is excited for the movie. Let's see this thing in December. But let me know what you guys thought of the Last Jedi trailer down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys like it, you can click subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.